Hello, 6th grade. This is Mr. Salamoni, and I wanted to make a video that continues what we've been talking about in the previous videos. You remember from the first video, we had a rhythm pyramid with whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16th notes. Review that if you're not up to speed on that video. The second video was rests. It showed you the same rhythm pyramid, but it showed you that all of those notes shown previously also have rests. The whole rest, the half rest, the quarter rest, the eighth rest, and the 16th rest. So review those videos. If you're still getting used to those things, write some things down if you're still getting used to them. If you are used to them, let's continue right here. Some of the things I want to do today are just to emphasize a few points that you can continue to practice. I've noticed that counting rhythms is still a challenge for 6th grade and even 7th grade a little bit because, of course, we just got there from 6th grade. So we're going to go over a couple of things. First of all, we talked about how 4/4 means 4 beats in a measure. And when we're dealing with rhythm and rhythm pyramids, we're always talking about a measure of 4 beats. So we have a line, 4 beats of something, then a line, then another 4 beats of something, and then a line. And that's how music is written. So I'm using 4/4. That means that we have 4 beats in a measure. You'll notice that I have 4 quarter notes right here, and I'm just showing you the basic counting is 1, 2, 3, 4. If we were to play those on an instrument, it would just sound something like, and that's it. And then of course, the equivalent of the space that a quarter note takes up is the quarter rest. So this would still be counted 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to go ahead and look at a combination of those two things. We're still in 4/4. I have a quarter note on beat 1, so that is going to make a sound for 1 beat. I have a rest on beat 2 and 3, so no sound there, but that space still has to be taken up by these rests. And then a note right here. So if we were to go ahead and play that, we'd clap the notes and maybe just put our hands in the air for the rests. So we're keeping track of space, but we're not actually playing anything. So if our tempo's here, 1, 2, ready, and we'd clap it, 1, rest, rest, 4, okay? So that's actually how you can say it. You could also say 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's a little bit more accurate. Some people find it's easier to say the rests, but I think over time, try to just get used to counting 1, 2, 3, 4 for stuff like that. Let's try it one more time. So our tempo doesn't change, that's our steady beat, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you were playing a violin, viola, cello, or bass, and you had your instrument up, you'd play 1 with the bow, 2, 3 you'd wait, and then 4 you'd play another note. Now as you can see, I have a different type of counting. We have our 1N, 2N, 3N, and we have eighth notes and eighth rests. I want you to notice that we're still in 4/4, which means 4 beats in a measure, so this is our measure. And then down here, this is basically a different measure down here of 4/4. So there's 4 beats here, 4 beats here. I want to remind you of why that is. When we talked about the quarter note, which I'll just remind you of is right here, it equals 1 beat. Well, the eighth notes are a half beat, and this is another half. So when they're tied together like this is 1 beat, except it's 1 beat with 2 sounds. This is 1 beat with 1 sound. And that's a good idea to get used to that way of thinking. So 1 beat with 1 sound is a quarter note, 2 beat with 2 sounds. 1 beat with 2 sounds. 1 beat with 2 sounds. So we have 1 beat, we have 2 beats, 3 beats, and then 4 beats. But we also can't just say 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to say the N, which you'll remember from my previous videos. So we count this, if this is our tempo, we count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You'll notice there's twice as many notes as before, so they go by a little faster. So if you were doing kind of a beat with your foot and you were going to play them all or clap them all, you would go, okay, and to count that as I do it, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, just like quarter notes, we have the eighth notes having eighth rests. They don't look the same at all. They're not even tied together. There is a reason for that. It's not a reason we really need to talk about right now. The main thing you just need to know is if you had nothing but rests, just like our video number 2, it would still be counted 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and there would be no sound. Now I've done a combination of eighth notes and eighth rests. And this looks a little tricky. This is actually harder than most things you'll see in 6th grade music right now. But let's just talk about the theory of it, how it works. So we have one end, we have 2, we also have an end. We don't really have to count it, we can count it, but it's no space there, so we could just say 2, we could just say 3, and we could just say 4 and here. So to play this and count it, you could do it one of 2 ways. You could say the ends right here or not. First I'll say 1 and 2 and all the way through. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You'll notice that I didn't clap twice here because that's a rest and that's a rest. So one more time, that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I only have to clap and when I have it here or when I have it there. Another thing that I could do is I could not say and. I could just say 1 and 2, 3, 4 and. So it's really up to you, but it's a good idea just to get used to the fact that we use 1 and 2 and counting when we're dealing with eighth notes, anything eighth note related. Now for our last group of notes that we learned over the last 2 videos, 16th notes. As you can see, we have 16th notes here. I didn't write a 4/4 for my 16th rests, but it's same type of thing. There's 4 beats in the measure. And some people look at this and they say, well, how can that be 4 beats? There's 16 notes. So let's remember what I refer to in quarter notes. It's 1 beat with 1 sound, 2 eighth notes, 1 beat with 2 sounds, and now here we have 1 beat, but there's 4 different sounds. So that means in that beat, these 4 sounds have to happen, which means they got to go a little faster. So this to a beat, clapping the 16th notes, 1 and 2 and ready, here we go, is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. And you can see that's why we use the 1 E and a counting. Now you only have to use the E and a, it's just an E, an N, and an A. You only have to use that if you're dealing with 16th notes. You don't have to count those the whole time if it's quarter notes and just 16th notes there. You could say 1, 2, 3, 4 E and a. We'll get to that later. The main thing here is that 16th note rests look like the 8th rests, and I'm not going to go any further with 16th notes because in 6th grade you're not really going to have to deal with a lot of 16th notes right now, but I do just want you to see how to count these. Let's clap it together one more time. Ready, and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So this would be a good time for anyone who's just getting used to these to pause the video for a moment and think about how you would count this and how you would clap this. So we have quarter notes. So we have our general 1, 2, 3, 4 counting. We have some eighth notes, which is our 1 and 2 and counting. But as you can see, you don't have to do 1 and 2 and the whole way. That can be confusing because you're saying things like eighth notes that aren't necessarily there. So hopefully you've had a chance to pause this and clap and count. So I'm going to go ahead and reveal what we're going to be dealing with here. So everything has a number. We have beat 1 with 1 sound, beat 2 with 2 sounds, beat 3 has 1 sound, and beat 4 happens to have 2 sounds. So the only thing that we actually have to say the end for is beat 2, that extra eighth note, and beat 4, that extra eighth note. So if you were to count out loud and no one was looking at anything and they just listened to what you were saying and you said 1, 2, and 3, 4, and, this is the rhythm that would be produced by saying those things. And we're going to go ahead and count that together. So we have 1, 2, and 3, 4. So you can hear that I'm clapping any of the sounds, but I'm not saying anything extra like and. I don't have to say 1 and 2 and, because that could be confusing. It's better if I just say and when I need to. Change from that last example, and we have 1, 2, and 3, 4, and we have to say something else there. Do you remember what it is? Think about that for a second. Okay, I'm going to write it down. So we have 1, don't need to say anything else. 2 N, just that one little thing extra. 3, don't need to say anything else. And then 4, we have to say E and so that we can actually represent the notes that are there. So we have 1, 2 N, 3, 4 E N. And the main thing to keep in mind is that the beat is steady there. 1, 2 and 3, 4 E, and a beat keeps going and the notes work around that beat. Here's a more challenging rhythm than anything you're likely to see in 6th grade. We just don't deal with rhythms that are that hard in 6th grade. But I bet that if you think about it, you can learn how to count it. So let's think about something here. It is a bunch of 16th notes. I drew the stems going this way and the dots on top just to show you that that really doesn't matter. All that matters is what it generally looks like, the dots and how many lines connect them, if any. That's all that really matters. So let's go ahead and as we learn how to count rhythms or get more comfortable with it, let's just really start at the beginning and say every one of these is a beat with 4 sounds, a beat with 1 sound, a beat with 2 sounds, and a beat with 4 sounds. And they all have numbers as per what we have up here. So this is beat 1 with 4 sounds, this is beat 2, this is beat 3, and this is beat 4. So now all we have to do is write in our extra things. Here we have 16th notes, so we would write in the E and so that we know that we have to say something that represents those. Here we don't need anything extra because it's just a quarter note. There's no extra counting, so we should avoid saying anything extra. Here we just have N because we're dealing with 8th notes. And here we go back to what we did over there. We're on beat 4, but we still have E and So now let's go ahead with our steady beat. Ready, set, and count. 1 E and a 2, 3 and 4. Okay, let's try that one more time, and you can practice this and rewind the video as well. Here we go. 1 E and a 2, 3 and 4 E and a. I don't know if I did 4 E and a the first time, so if that was a mistake, I apologize. So I'm going to just show you the steady beat now. So we have 1 E and a 2, 3 and 4 E and a. And that is how rhythm is counted. So my advice to you is to go back to videos 1 and 2 if you're unsure, and then this is a video that puts everything together and continues to practice those ideas. If you're very comfortable with the first 2 videos in this video, then it would be a good time to go on to my rhythm exercise and see if you can figure out how to count it. The last thing I wanted to say is just to remember to be patient. Learning this does happen if you practice it, just like practicing an instrument. And if it seems like a lot of information at first, just go slowly. Go back and look at my first video, look at my second video, and you really don't need to move forward with this video until you feel comfortable with the information that was coming before it. If you have any questions at all, email me and I'll include a rhythm etude that you can work on for practice. Have a great day.